Morning, friends, and welcome to Alignment with Rebecca. I'm just looking around because my cat just sauntered in. I didn't recognize what the noise was. Hello, friends. It's September 1st, 2020, here in the wonderful land of COVID and social unrest and difficulties, but also great, wonderful things as well. And today we're going to talk, actually, this whole week, a little bit about this idea about how to be the observer. And so, all the talks we have this week is going to be around that topic, either loosely or tightly bound to that topic. And I wanted to talk about it because my friend Kat, who you've heard me talk about before, she actually asked me not very long ago, what does it mean to be the observer? She was sitting in on some of the meditations I gave for Osher. Osher is an organization that works with different universities around the United States to bring courses and activities to people who are 50 and over. They're really quite fantastic. And no, I don't get a kickback. I just think they're pretty awesome. And she had asked me, though, what am I talking about? How do you become the observer of your life? And sometimes you have ideas or you understand concepts from a body point of view, meaning that, well, you've experienced it a lot, so you kind of understand it, but you don't necessarily have the perfect words to describe it to somebody else. So, one of the things I did this weekend was to take a little bit of time and to think about what does it mean to be the observer? How do we become the observer? And does it really mean that we are all of a sudden somehow disinterested in our life and emotions and relationships? Ultimately, I think to be the observer comes down to one word, and that word is choice. When we are the observer of our lives, as well as the liver of our lives, we are able to make choices about how we're going to feel, what we're going to say, how we're going to act, the decisions we make, and so on and so forth. And it's not an easy thing to do. It's really hard, mostly for a few different reasons. One, we're not taught. Unless you go into a specialized field, you're probably not taught as a young person to be the observer of your life, to be able to have that a little bit of space in which you can be objective regarding what's going on and how you're handling it and the choices that you may have to make. So we are taught rather to be inside our emotions. I was looking at my email this morning before I took my shower, and I saw a couple different ads that came to my mailbox about things I could buy. You know, a reusable notebook, a journal that I keep on my computer, and so on and so forth. And both of these advertisements very specifically said, feel feel this, feel that. Be immersed into the experience. And I was thinking to myself, well, this is actually a really good example of how we are taught from a very early age to feel rather than to take a little bit of space and observe what we're feeling, why we're feeling it, and how it is impacting us. So, growing up in the United States, I grew up with a lot of ideas, such as I am an individual, and as an individual, I can do anything. I could become president of the United States if I wanted to. Of course, that wasn't coincided with, by the way, you're a woman, so probably not going to happen. Um, but you come with these ideas in our life, our ideas about feeling, how important our emotions is, how important it is what we're feeling, and how other people don't understand our feelings. And it comes down a lot to feelings, feelings, feelings. I loved the Colbert Show. And on the Colbert Show, he had a really great kind of series of skits about the gut feeling. I know it's right because I have a gut feeling about it. Now, I don't want to dismiss a gut feeling. I think gut feelings are there because our body has different forms of memory. We have many different memory centers. It's not just in our brain, it's throughout our whole body. And these memory centers collect different pieces of information to allow us to react quickly under difficult situations, for example. So, our gut feelings can be very, very helpful under many different circumstances. But I don't believe, at least I have come to the place where I don't believe that that's the place we should live in, because that's a place of continuous reaction. I react to what you have to say instead of thinking a little bit and observing what the processes is, the exchanges between you and I, before I take a few minutes to respond back. Okay, a few seconds. It doesn't take very long. Oh, we got a Harpo cam this morning. Here you are, Harpo. Come say hello. My Harpo cat is getting on in years, and he's been having a little bit of difficulty. So when he asks to go on my lap, I just bring him on up because he needs some extra TLC. Now, there are many different other aspects. We are also not encouraged by our culture to be critical thinkers or to take a little bit of time to think about what's going on before reacting, for example. And we see this in the news stories. Like if I was to pull up news right now, most of the news stories that you see are filled with different headlines to make us read. And because they're doing this, they're trying to pull on our emotional centers. We talked last week about pathos. This is an ancient Greek word that means emotions, and the ancient Greeks really felt like we should rely on logos, which is logic, and also on ethos, which is character and kind of like knowledge, for example. So somebody who has a great deal of character, who knows a lot about their field, who can talk well about it, that would be somebody filled with ethos. But if we look at the news, for example, fatal shooting of Black man in LA Sheriff's deputy sparks protests questions. That headline, it's important, but it's made to make us immediately feel. It's in some ways they're made to make us be triggered by the actual headline so that we will immediately react by reading it, and then we'll become emotionally engaged in the reading. And like yesterday, the news was, oh, geez, oh my gosh, it was just so overwhelming, the amount of different forms of emotionally intended headlines, and it really got to me. So I work at being the observer in my life, and I'm not necessarily good at it. That's why we always say we have to practice these things, because when we are enmeshed in the middle of an emotional situation, it's really, really difficult for us to stop that process and go, I'm going to be the observer of this particular argument. No, it doesn't work that way. So we practice on how to observe our lives and our actions and our thoughts and our communication, so that when we do get in the middle of a massive emotional situation, we have better tools to calm ourselves down, to look at the situation from hopefully a logical point of view, and then make a decision, a choice about how we want to react. You want to say hello again? He had no choice in that. I just put him up to the camera. All right, there you go, sweetie. So there are a lot of disciplines that teach us after we come of age to become the observer. For example, doctors, they are taught to become the observers, and they have to. If you enjoyed that TV show House, right? What was interesting, though, about that TV show House and that particular character is he could be the observer when he was in the role of doctor. But he wasn't very good at being the observer in the role of his life. And that's part of the dynamic that made that character so very interesting, is that you could see how well he was able to observe in a very specific, narrow role of his life. Now, scientists are also taught to be observers. They are taught to be disinterested. That's a term that is often used when we talk about scientists. And that means they're trying to shed themselves of any biases, anything that they believe personally when they are doing their science. And of course, there's been a lot of literature that says, Yeah, no, you can't do that. You can't totally divorce yourself from the processes of life. But what a scientist does do is that they learn how to become the observer of the information that they are processing in order to be able to make logical conclusions about whatever it is they happen to be studying. An artist is also a really good observer. They are taught to look at things around them and then reproduce those things in different forms of art, whether it's painting or sculpting or even writing a song. Artists are trained to observe what's going on in order to be able to create art that speaks to it. And also, like for myself, I'm an actress. So when I started working, one of the very first assignments I was given when I was going to Cornish College of the Arts was to find some place to sit down and observe the people that were walking by, pick one particular person, and just really observe their actions, what you could hear, how they functioned. And that was the beginning of a lifelong process of seeing observation as a way for me to inform my own art. And if you know anything about actors, although there are many different ways to get to a character, usually you hear them talk about one of two ways. One, they have to be the character. And we've heard these stories about famous actors, of course, that they can't leave their character once they leave the set. They live with their character 24/7. And this is so that they can be better immersed in the character's processes, emotions, thoughts, and so on and so forth. And then there's this whole other group, and I kind of fall into this other group, where we believe that the best way to become a good actor is to observe what is going on to some degree, that there's always a tiny bit of distance so that we don't get lost in our characters, so that we don't take them home. Because ultimately, if I'm playing a murderer, or when I was in the play Night Mother many, many years ago, I had to play somebody who was suicidal. I'm not going to want to take that shit home. This is not stuff you want to bring home with you if you want to be a happy and healthy person. But it's very difficult for actors. Last year, I was playing Lady Macbeth, and my husband, I got lucky, he played my Macbeth. And we found ourselves enmeshed in a couple different arguments because we were bringing our characters home with us without even kind of realizing it. So it's very easy to get lost in the emotions, whether you're in the emotions of a character or you are in your own emotions. So we practice becoming the observer. So how do you do this? Well, I'm going to give you a couple tips on how to start doing this. The first thing is you can do like my acting exercise, observe other people. See people in the middle of an argument, see people in the middle of a happy moment, see people in the middle of an ordinary moment, and just observe how their body reacts, the tone of their voice, the expressions on their face, how overall are those processes in their body functioning, and then take a few minutes to go, how do they function in my own body? When I get angry, what are my defaults? When I get upset, what are my defaults? When I'm in the middle of a massive amount of joy, what am I feeling? And is it comparative to what they're feeling? And there's going to be some comparisons, but of course, there's also going to be a lot of differences as well. But when we start observing your pets, observing the things in your house, in your room, that starts the practice of becoming the observer in your own life. There's some other really wonderful techniques too, especially techniques to help you go to sleep at night. So when you're lying in bed, take a few minutes and just observe your body. If you're in pain, if you feel good, if you're exhausted, go from your toes and just examine each toe in your mind. What is my big toe feeling right now? What is my next toe feeling? What is the sole of my feet feeling? And all the way up your body to the top of your head. By the time you've gotten to the top of your head, you're probably going to be nicely relaxed, because as we observe our body and what's going on there, we also give ourselves an opportunity to go, my foot is feeling really tight. maybe if I just breathe into it, it will relax a little bit. And so that is a really good practice for every single night before you go to bed, because it's going to allow you not only to learn how to be the observer in your own life and practice what it means, but it also allows you to have choice and control about what you are experiencing. So if your legs are tight and you notice that as you are observing your body before you go to sleep, you can breathe into those areas. Imagine the muscles relaxing. And that's a moment of choice. You could either hold on to the tightness or you could choose to let it relax. Now, of course, it's not easy to do that. I mean, ultimately, it's never very easy to say, muscles, stop being tight. But the more you practice, again, the more likely you are to be able to find those processes that will work for yourself. So I'm going to encourage everybody this week to take a little bit of time and become the observer and write down what you observed. Go ahead and journal it. Take a few minutes to do that. And not only what you observed, but did it allow you to make a conscious decision about how you might react? Did it allow you an opportunity of choice in your life? Did it allow you to escape an argument that if you were enmeshed in your emotions, you would not have been able to escape? So take a little bit of time and do this. And you know, it's not easy. Like, it's not going to come to you really fast. And if it does, more power to you, brother and sister. I tell you what, that's amazing. For myself, it's a bumbling mess continuously. But I keep striving for it because the more I practice and the better I get at it, the more I am able to make some really good conscious choices in my life. So tomorrow we're going to talk about the importance of the observer in relation to what is called the fundamental attribution error. Bam, bam. I keep thinking of a song for that. I haven't gotten it yet. But this is a really common thing that we do every day. It is a complicated and in some ways weird term until you break it up. But we'll talk about that tomorrow, and we'll talk about how important it is to observe yourself doing fundamental attribution errors and how you can fix that. But for the moment, I'd like you to make sure that you can sit down somewhere, get comfortable. We're going to become our own observers for a few moments here. I've got my Kevin MacLeod and the Elf meditation. And just take a few moments and breathe. When we get to this part in our little podcasts, for those of you who follows, we are giving ourselves the opportunity to become the observers of our breath and our body. And this process can calm us down, help us break free of emotions, biases, assumptions, all those things that tend to hold us down and often hold us back. So simply breathe. Bring the breath all the way down into the root of your body. Hold for a few moments and then exhale. You might want to breathe in for a count of 5. Hold for a count of 1 or 2. And then exhale for a count of 6 or 7. Observe your breath. Observe how your lungs and your diaphragm and your body reacts to the inhale. And then what do you see, experience as you exhale? Are you breathing more in the chest area, for example? Or do you feel the breath go all the way down to your core? What happens to your belly? Does it extend? Or do you find the extension more in your ribs? If you take your hands and you place them at the base of your belly, you can better direct your breath to find its way all the way down. Now, I'm going to ask you a few questions designed to help you observe yourself and your place in the universe or your life. The first question is, who am I? Allow any thought or sensation to occur to you without controlling it, without judgment. Who am I? If the answer seems to be about the roles you play in life, mother, father, accountant, wife, daughter, son, these are all roles. Consider yourself outside of those roles. Who am I at the core of your being? What do I want? What is my deepest desire? Again, allow any sensation or thought to occur without controlling it. What do I truly want? is my purpose? How can I serve myself as well as others? What is my purpose? Allow any thoughts or sensations to occur to you without forcing it. But if your purpose is identified with a role in life, is that just one instant of where your purpose is manifesting? If so, can you go deeper? What am I grateful for? Observing what we are grateful for aids us in the process of becoming observers in our own life. Allow any sensation, thought, image to come to you. No judgment. Don't force the answer. What am I grateful for? Now, let go of all the questions and all the answers, and simply breathe. Observe your breath. And when you are ready, gently open your eyes with that same sense of relaxation. And look around your room or wherever you are, and just try to observe all those things that surround you, while at the same time keeping the sense of relaxation, the sense of focus. And when you are ready, wiggle your fingers and your toes as you come back to this world. I thank you all for joining me today. I challenge you to become the observers of your own life and to find those processes and thoughts that work best for you rather than reacting. Give yourself choice. Mahalo for your time, and namaste. Aloha.